So we're ready to go. Hi, Dr. Rob.
Hi, Dr. Tammy. I think I got the lighting right. I think I finally got the lighting right. Hey, everybody.
It looks great.
Welcome to Sex and Relationship Healing's Monday night Q&A with the expert, and that is me for tonight. My name is Rob Weiss. I am a sex addict in recovery almost 35 years. I've also been working in the field of sex addiction for the last 28 to 30 years, writing books, opening treatment centers, training therapists, and really delving into what I can do on any level to help us get better. And Tammy and our team are just amazing, and I'm so excited to be able to do this for you and not charge you. And we're here every week. So let's go with questions.
Well, and I forgot to mention that this is recorded. Your questions will be asked in a general way, but it is recorded so that you can go back and review this later online, which I've had a number of people do that. They've commented that they wanted to go back, but it's also for people that are not able to join live. So, but you are not going to be visible on the screen, so it's all good. Okay, so first question, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say for the spouses online, you'll be very glad about this, because when you say to your husband, I think Rob said this, and he or she says, or your spouse says, he never said that, you can go back and listen to what I said so that you don't have to argue about it. You may not agree with it, but you don't have to argue about it. And your name will not be mentioned. We'll just be talking about the issues. Thanks,
right.
Tim.
Yes. And I agree, and I think that that's been the case when people were wanting to go back and re-listen to it. Okay, so the first question is, could you talk about the feeling state addiction protocol?
Can I talk about what? I'm sorry, my dog was whining at me.
Feeling state addiction protocol.
What protocol?
Feeling state addiction protocol.
Not my area of expertise. I'm sure it's some model that someone has laid out towards something or was working with, but not something I know about, or maybe something I know about under another title. But can I say that I had a really, really good podcast this morning with a guy named Dr. Luke Cox. And no, it's not a joke, COX, that is his name. No comments from the sex addicts. But he wrote a book called Ego. It's called Ego, something about breaking down the ego. Tammy, you'll get it in a second for me.
No, well, I can, but yeah, you have my book. Otherwise, I'd show it. So
actually, it was actually my name was on it, but I'm sure it was given to you. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, what Dr. Cox brought up, we'll mention his book in a minute, or Tammy will type it in the chat. What I really loved is he really succinctly, by the way, the podcast is called Sex, Love, and Addiction. It's free. I have about 35 of them now with experts in sex, love, and addiction from all over the world. And they're pretty amazing. But the one I did today, I wanted to mention because, while I don't know the meaning of that particular thing, I do know something that I heard today that I think is useful for you guys. Because it's something I really both relate to personally and also understand, is that when we pair with people with whom we are more afraid, how do I say this? If our fears about our partners, like they're going to abandon me, would be a big one, or they're going to leave me, or I'm going to be alone. If our fears about our partners are greater than our ability to say what is true for us, then we're in trouble. In other words, if I can't say to my spouse, I'm not happy that you did that, or I may not want to live with you if you continue to do that, or if our fear of being abandoned outweighs our ability to take care of ourselves in relationships, that's a problem. And it's the same with sex addicts. Our fears and our anxieties lead us to acting out and harming the relationship. So I just thought it was really, really right. It's called Ego, Ghost in the Machine, is the book that I read today, and that we talked about. And I really want to honor my guests, because I think that we choose them wisely and for a reason for you guys. This particular book really speaks to, how all of our defenses get built up, and then how we can take them down, or to say it as a non-professional, how we end up being reactive, impulsive, fear-based, and addictive. When there is a path to being a healthier person, it's just that we're too afraid to take it. And for partners, sometimes you're too afraid to assert what is true for you because you're afraid that it won't work out, or will leave, or whatever your fear is, or will rage at you, whatever that is. So every time I talk to a professional in this field, I'm reminded of how important the lessons we learned growing up are to what happened in adult life. And they're not burned in, but you have to accept that the way you relate to someone, the way you relate to your partner, the way you communicate, the way you look at things together can change. You don't have to stay the way you are. You can grow past it, both for the addict and for the partner. So anyway, I want to throw that out there. I liked his book. I liked what he had to say. And I really like the idea that as we grow our own strength, our own personal strength, and this is especially important for the partners, I think. This, something happened to you. Yes, we acted out. Now you're living with our lies, our manipulate, but you're getting stronger in your work on yourself. Now that this has happened, will allow you to be more comfortable and feel more safe with us. So I loved what I heard. Just thought I'd share it. And let's answer some questions.
Excited to have that one come out. I actually looked up the feeling state addiction protocol, and it says it uses a modified form of EMDR to break the fixation. So I was not familiar with that term before either.
Oh, okay. So this is good. Thank you, Tammy. You're like research analyst at the other end. So the question that was asked about feeling state focus
addiction protocol.
It is a protocol for EMDR, which is a form of trauma reprocessing. Very useful stuff if you've had a history of trauma. Not so helpful in dealing with active addiction unless you're being triggered by some trauma or emotional response that requires stabilization. But what this person is asking about is a technique within a technique. That is not one that I practice, but I refer people out to them for EMDR. So I wouldn't know what that was. Oh, I feel better.
Well, I was curious because I wasn't familiar with it, so I wasn't sure if you were. So anyway,
EMDR protocol.
So on the podcast, you mentioned how you sometimes deal with 25-year-old that doesn't know how to date. That's me. Never had a girlfriend, but I'm somewhat sociable now, but completely closed off in high school. How do I get into dating at this age? I don't know how. Online dating is depressing.
Well, I love you for asking that question, and I love you for being 25 and being here. Because I was 26 when I started my recovery. As old as I look now, it was 1985. And I was your age when I started asking questions like you are. So I'm really glad you're asking them. So here's a response for you. I think that the most important way to start working on dating is in your friendships. It's in your securing really deep and enduring friendships. And I mean people you hang out and play sports with, people you hang out and play cards with, people who you might go shooting with. I mean, whatever your activity is that you like, but you're taking, and for addicts in particular, because if you think about those of us who are porn addicts or sex addicts, what do we spend most of our free time doing? Looking at porn or having sex or running away from our consequences. If you can begin to develop a healthy recreational life that doesn't involve sex, it will lead you to dating. If you go join a hiking group, and you have to be committed, like I don't care if I don't like the hiking group on week 1, I'm going to go for 8 weeks. You have to go for a while because we are often resistant to the challenges that come with getting to know people. And if you have that mindset, it's just easier to stay home and not bother. We can talk ourselves out of. So my answer to you, and it may not sound like dating, but it's absolutely essential to dating for us, is that you become a lot more comfortable with all kinds of social interactions. And basically that you get a couple of guys who are your buds, who you can lean into around dating, relationships that you set up as friendships, so that these men, who are in your support group or in your life, can then guide you when you start dating, how to hang in there, who to keep dating, who to not date, because you may not ever feel comfortable dating. And yeah, online dating can be really difficult, but there may be other people who you have become deep friends with or you've engaged with in recovery and healing who do know a little bit about dating, or at least they know how to guide you because it isn't them. So really the key to dating is, well, a couple things. Number one, you have to get out there. And if you're not comfortable getting out there dating, get out there. Get out there meeting friends, get out there being in social groups, get out there, and you might just meet somebody you want to date in that process. But in that process, you're going to be working on building friendships, building trust, building relationship intimacy, and having fun. All of the things that will be important for when you do date. And then when you are ready to date, and I would suggest you give those friendships and recreational activity a little bit of time before you start dating. Make them more important than dating. Then you'll have the stable relationships to come back to and say, oh my God, that was a great date. What do you think? That was a terrible date. He or she didn't call me back. What do I do? You can rely on, you don't need a therapist. You just need some good friends who understand your situation, know what you've been through, and are willing to guide and support you without shame or embarrassment. You need a couple of buddies. And by the way, had you been dating at 15 or 14 or 16, you might have had a couple of us around, but now you're 25 and we're all off, already dating, already having relationships already. You need to pull a couple of us back into your world and ask us for help. We'll be glad to do it.
So the follow-up to that is, are support groups a good start? I'm attending SAA and CODA regularly.
I think there's no better place than SAA or SLAA to learn about dating, because that is the room where people are talking about everything they did wrong. So you get to hear about everything you don't want to do and learn about what you want to do right. So yes, but that is not a good place to find someone to date. I don't think 12-step meetings, it's like, that's where we go for our meditation, for our peace, for our comfort, for our support. We don't go to those rooms to look for sex and romance. Some people find that and that's what they're looking for. But for us, it's best not to do that. So don't poop where you eat, which means don't go to 12-step meetings looking for people, but to date, but do look for people who will be your friend and who maybe have already started dating. So they have a little bit of a head start on you. One more thing, when you do start dating, and this is for everybody, I've been to a number of dating workshops. I went to a lot of them when I was single. As a therapist, I have to tell you that all the therapists who went to the dating workshop were only there because we all were looking to date, not for you guys. But in any case, I've been to lots of dating workshops. And what I have found is almost universally, they say that dating is a numbers game and that most people give up before they date enough people. And then if you really listen to the dating experts further, they'll tell you, you probably have to have maybe 12 to 15 dates with different people before you decide who might be right for you to date, to continue dating. Now, you might meet that person on the third date, but you might not meet that person until date number 9 or 12. And most of us give up after the third date, say, oh, this just isn't working, or I'll just settle for somebody, and really, everybody's different. Who we are with everybody else is different. And, it's important to give ourselves time to date and to have a plan for dating and have people to rely on to make our dating decisions. And that's how it works.
I love what you shared too about hiking or whatever activity, but I think that takes the pressure off, but you're also engaging in something that's healthy and that you hopefully like to do. So, if you're meeting people, they're going to be somewhat similarly minded. So you have that basic foundation for at least a friendship, and who knows beyond that. But I really think it takes the pressure off. If I'm just going for a hike, I'm just going for a hike. If I meet somebody, oh well, but that wasn't my primary reason for going. I'm going to go on a sociable hike. So. And
have fun with new friends.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're a little too, may I just say this too? You might meet some really lovely woman who you would love to date when you're going hiking, but she's married and has 2 kids. But guess what? She has a girlfriend who's single, who she's been trying to get with somebody for ages, and she thinks you're great. So it is by being out with people and talking about your needs that it will go around. And how many women do you know? I know tons who would love to set up a single guy for a date, guys too. But they don't know if you're not out there. So you have to get out there in the non-dating world to find the dating world. What other questions, Sam?
Okay. How important is having the truth of the affairs, betrayals, and recovery and reconciling the relationship? So that sounds like disclosure.
So in my world, in my professional world, meaning the world where therapists come together and talk about working with sex and love addicts and intimacy disorders, we believe that for a relationship to a solid, meaningful, long-term relationship that is committed to go forward, that at some point the person has been lied to needs to hear the truth. And I personally believe that if you're reasonably sane, why would you stay with someone when you are going through year after year not knowing what happened and not knowing if some of what happened would be something that maybe you wouldn't want to stay for? There are certain things. Anyway, if the goal is having an intimate relationship, and intimacy means being known, being fully known by your partner. Intimacy doesn't mean great sex. That's great sex. And it may not be intimate, but intimacy is, this is who I am. This is everything about me that you didn't know. This is everything about me you need to know. Do you still love me? Am I worth loving in your eyes? That's intimate. And if that person comes back to you and says, you know what, I don't like this and I don't like that and I don't like this, but I kind of like you, and so I'm willing to put up with that, or at least I'm willing to put up with that while you're working on it, then you have intimacy. But when you only show the parts of yourself that you think the person will like, or you only show the parts of yourself that you think the person won't get upset about, you're not letting yourself be fully known. And if you're not letting yourself fully be known, then you can never achieve intimacy. Because for addicts especially, there's always this part in our head that says, you know, I know she said she loved me. I know she said till our dying days, but boy, if she knew I'd been to that strip club last week, maybe she wouldn't love me so much. And addicts, we don't need another reason to believe we're unworthy of love. So the more we can get rid of both our active reasons to say, look what I'm doing, I'm worthy of love, which is the addiction, and then clear up the secrecy and the hiding and the manipulations and all the stuff they don't know about, that is our best chance for freedom and intimacy in a relationship. And it needs to be done with a professional. This is not something that I've seen far too many really great couples screw this up, because that person as an addict feels like, oh my God, she wants to know everything, or he wants to know everything, I got to tell them everything. And then we just blurt it all out. It's basically like vomiting all over somebody, even though they say they want to hear it, but then they're devastated. But they don't have support in that moment. They may not have a group. They may not have a therapist. There's no setup for them to manage the information they heard. So by the way, we will feel better. It's like, oh, finally, they know everything. I don't have any more secrets. I feel so much better. They will feel devastated. Even though they've been saying, I want this, I want this, I want this. I can even think of situations where us addicts will say to a partner, I don't understand why you're so angry and upset. You keep asking me for this information. I finally gave it to you, and now you're furious. Well, yes. Partners aren't asking for the truth because they think it'll make, partners often ask for the truth because they think it will make them feel better. And if they know everything, every single detail, and then there are more details to know, because partners who've been cheated on are endless questioners, they're questioning because they think that if they get all the information that somehow everything will be okay. You know, if they can just like understand everything, see everything. And the truth is, for all the partners out there, you know this, nothing is okay. You've been cheated on, you've been lied to. Finding out every single detail, whether it's the crease in this man or woman's face or how big their boobs were, whatever you find out about what was going on, that will not make you feel better. But knowing that you've heard all that there is and that there's nothing new to come out, that will make you feel better. So when one of us has the opportunity to do an extensive inventory, an extensive view of all of our acting out, and then we run it by the people in our program and our therapists, and we get it down to just the facts, ma'am, not, I'm so sorry I did this, or please forgive me, or, well, if I'd known I was a sex addict, I wouldn't have done all this stuff to you, so it's really because, none of that. Partners simply need to hear, for 3 years, I did this. For a year and a half, I was doing that. I saw that person and had sex with them, but I was also doing this. Not graphic, not particularly detailed, but just how often, what kind of behavior, who it was with, the generalities. And let me explain that part too, because I know that your partners want to hear every drop of everything that's happened. It's not all good for you. If you want to continue to have a relationship with me and I've cheated on you, you want to know that I've gone to massage parlors at least 25, 30 times, that I've spent X amount of dollars on sex that I could have spent on our kids or on a relationship. You want to know that I was absent and looking at porn late in the evening when I said I was up working night after night. You need to know the general state of my unavailability, which can confirm back to you as a partner, oh, I get it. This is what's been going on. But you don't need graphic details, meaning, how big was there this? How many times did you do that? Did you put it in that and not put it in there? And the reason that we don't want you to know that is not because you can't know it, but it makes, if you think about it, if you and I are together and I do all this stuff with somebody else, it's one thing for me to say to you, you know, I did all this stuff with somebody else, but if I describe it to you in detail, you're going to have an image of it. And I don't want you carrying around an image of me with someone else in your head. The next time, even if it's a year from now, we choose to start moving toward being intimate. And unfortunately for a spouse, once you have that picture in your head, it's very hard to get rid of. So we try not to be detailed in the disclosures, but absolutely to do them in a very structured way with a professional who knows what they're doing present, so that both of you can get your needs met. And last thing about that, we never do disclosure in my belief system, unless a couple is committed to going forward, at least for the next year. So you may say to me, well, if I hear this is just, if I hear that, I'm leaving. You're not going to get disclosure, because we need to tell you everything. And you need to be willing to say, I am here because I want to be here with you. And the only way I can see moving forward with you is if I know everything, or at least most things. Because, otherwise it's not intimate. So I'm sure there are a million more questions within that, and I see the Q&A jumping up, so I'll stop and try to be shorter.
Okay, well, it's all good. Disclosure is a really important topic, and I've had too many people call me after a vomit disclosure, and that's what I call them too, and it's highly problematic. So I'd rather people be educated to do them as right as possible.
Let me say one more thing about that. There's a reason we don't do disclosure with couples that have decided to separate or are really not clear that they want to go forward. It is not fair to us to give you a list of every sexual act I've ever engaged in that you didn't know about if your intention is to divorce me and then take that to a lawyer. It's just not okay. If you want to continue our relationship and you believe in our relationship, no matter the pain we've been through, then you should know everything that's happened. And I'm willing to go through that and be one down, because I want us to stay together. But if you're collecting information to attack me with later and you don't intend to stay with me, then I'm not going to give you that information, because I don't really need the attack, and I'm not going to move forward with you. So disclosure is a process we recommend that is done with a professional, that is in the service of improving intimacy and moving a couple toward reconnection. If that's not the goal, we don't do it.
Two things on that. One is that doesn't mean the partner has to stay, because I know some people have felt trapped. So that isn't the case. The other thing is, like, the person in recovery needs to be more than 5 minutes in recovery, so that they aren't going to have another disclosure a month down the road because they did it again. So, okay. I just started the program in January, and I have been sober since January 1st. My partner is aware of what's going on and continues to want sex. It has been several months since we have. Should we be having sex during this time?
I have a really standard answer to this, and it can be fairly quick. It takes both partners to answer this question. Do you trust your spouse? And if you trust them and they trust you, then I think it's a reasonable thing to explore the beginnings of being intimate. And that doesn't mean you're moving right to sex. That means you're starting to date one another, hold hands with one another, give each other back rubs, start some massages. There are a lot of ways to regrow intimacy and connection other than going right to the sex. And in fact, considering our histories as sex addicts and love addicts, I would recommend not going directly to the sex. But if you are both feeling safe and comfortable with each other and you want to move closer, try having a date. Try going to some movies together. Try some massage. Try moving in that direction without having the goal be sex. But, and I think this is a very important but, if you don't trust the person that you love yet, or you don't feel they trust you, why are you having sex? Why would you have sex with someone you don't trust? And I say this a lot. If you're a partner and you want to have sex with an addict who has betrayed you, and you want to have it quickly, 9 times out of 10, it's for the wrong reason. You want to have sex with him or with us to keep us around, to reassure yourself, to make sure we don't fool around with others, to, whatever it is you're seeking to do. It certainly doesn't have to do with love and trust, because you just found out we betrayed you. So why would you want to have sex with us? And for us, we can often want to have sex with a partner to reassure ourselves that they're not going to leave, that everything's going to be okay, that we have them back under our wing as a loved one. And if that isn't true, if you're not in that place of trust and reconnection on a deep level, not time to have sex. And my guide is always, unless you're going out to have sex with a stranger, and this isn't really the room for that. My comment is always, I don't recommend having sex with people that you don't trust, even if you're married to them.
Okay. Next question. My SA husband went to his first Sexaholics meeting about 2 months ago. He seems to be working hard on the program, and I'm happy about that. We have had years of therapy, both separately and together, married almost 40 years. We never had a formal disclosure meeting like you discussed. He minimized and lied to his therapist and gave the impression that he was earnest about recovery. He was not willing to give up his addiction. I see that clearly now. I know that there is a lot I don't know about. Do I have the right to ask him now for the details.
Well, again, I absolutely, without question, believe that you as a partner, if you want to stay in the relationship and you want to continue to be with that person, have an absolute right to say, I want to know what happened. And I would like a formal disclosure. And the reason I say formal, and this may sound silly, but there really is a reason, is because I don't want them saying to you, oh, it's this, this, and this. And then the next night, oh, did I forget to tell you it's that, that, and that? Because there's nothing harder for you guys as a partner than thinking, okay, phew, finally know everything. Now I can begin to put my life back together. And then 3 weeks later, you find there's something else. So we need to prep the person who's been acting out, as professionals need to prep them to make sure that all of the important details are on a piece of paper and in the right way. And you, as partners, need preparation for feeling really bad and really hurt for a while. And like my dog seems to be sounding, you don't get dinner till I'm done with the show. That's the way it goes. Sorry, dude. You're fat. You're pudgy. You're good. So that's kind of how it works.
Okay. And you were talking about the partner support too, like to prepare them. So, and I think it's really important that you have support while you're being prepared for all of that and for support after the disclosure.
And yeah, just think about what Tammy just said after. Well, what if you just both gone through this? And let's say as a partner, you think, I don't want to be anywhere near that person for the next week. Where are you going to go? Where are they going to go? Did you drive together? Are you at home together? Well, what are you going to do? So we plan everything out before, after, in the middle, so that you guys can just do the work you need to do, and we are protecting you and keeping you safe. And that's why we do disclosure with therapists. And Tammy can recommend, we know probably 1,500 therapists around the country who have been trained to do disclosure, and Tammy can, I'm pretty sure, recommend someone in any state in the country.
I can definitely help, yes.
Overseas.
Okay. Yes, and that too. So any advice you can give me? I have had an affair with a coworker. I am trying to make my partner feel safe despite this betrayal, especially given the daily reminder of my infidelity. Further, it is a challenge for me to see this coworker every day.
You really think I should answer that, Tammy? Do you think they really?
I don't think they'll like the answer, but I think you need to answer it.
You want to stay married or in the relationship with your partner, you have to leave your job. That's the way it is. Not even a question. I don't care how much you make, where you work, how important you need to find a way out of there, because there is no way that your partner or your wife or your husband is ever going to feel safe with you seeing that person every day, or going on a business trip, or having a Christmas dinner, or whatever it is you do at work. And it is unfair of you to expect that they would put up with that or somehow learn to tolerate it. What you need to understand, and I think every addict does, is that behaviors have consequences. And I know, it's like, oh, I love my job, I have a lot of job, I worked all these years, that's great. But when the minute you decide to have sex with someone in the workplace, you said goodbye to that job. You've already said goodbye to that job. And by the way, what happens when this person who you've been having this affair with decides that they want to turn you in? What happens then? What happens to your marriage, your work, your career? Because it all happened. And if they happen to be in a bad place, you have made yourself incredibly vulnerable for the rest of your time you work there, for this person at any moment, as you can see on TV, to say even 10 years later, I can't believe this person did this to me. I worked for him, or we worked together. So quit the damn job. Get yourself another job as quickly as you can. And if your partner, and I've heard this from partners sometimes, no, I don't want him to quit his job. That's really important. He's making a lot of money, or whatever it is, or she is. I think that's a really, look, I've had people sell their businesses because they didn't want to be like I've worked with people who had peripheral relationships with, let's say, the porn industry, not directly, but they had a nudie this or something. They sold their businesses. Like they knew. And I've had people in treatment, and this often happens in treatment. Someone will say, oh my God, the most important thing in my life is my family and my children. What was I thinking? I will find a way to make us get by, but I don't want to make him or her suffer every day when I go to work wondering what's going on. And then I have to explain what went on at the end of every day. That's not healthy for us. You already lost your job when you had that affair. Now you need to end it.
Next question. My husband, we are separated, is currently in a 12-day outpatient sex addiction intensive out of state. Husband's secret life of sex addiction, same-sex too, have gone on for more than our 40-year marriage, which I discovered 2 years ago, the frog in the pot of boiling water. I am anxious as he has been a manipulative, nice guy, master illusionist with his 2 therapists, neither of which are CSAT trained professionals. I have no idea what to expect of him And from him, when he gets back, the doctor will go over his test results, diagnosis, and what the follow-up recovery plan will be, providing my husband doesn't rescind the ROI he signed originally. Dr. Rob, with your expertise on narcissistic abusive husbands coming out of intensive, can you please give me an idea of the best case and worst case scenarios and what to expect? And why do I feel so anxious of him coming back?
Well, I have to say that every spouse I've ever worked with, nearly, was glad when the addict went off to treatment, because it was like, okay, I don't have to worry on a daily basis what he or she's doing, where they're going. You know, I know they're in a safe place. They're probably not acting out. They're surrounded by professionals. So for this 2 weeks, you can go, whoo. You know, it's like the person with cancer is in the hospital. You don't have to force feed them every day, but now they're coming home. And why wouldn't you be anxious? Because now all the hard part comes. How do we get along? How do I know they're telling the truth? How do I tolerate my anger? You know, all of the things that come up. So a couple of things. Number one, I agree with you. Any good treatment program, including the ones that I run for sure, we make sure that partners are involved from the very beginning, know exactly what the process is, and will know everything that is expected on the way out. Including having some sessions with you while the person is in treatment. So you should not be in the dark, in my opinion, from day one. You know, when in fact, Tammy and I are in the process of opening treatment programs. Yay. And I'm going to be starting to get back to work, which I'm really excited about. I took time off for my PhD and to write some books, but I am eager to do treatment. So I'm going to be doing some intensives like the one your husband is in. And I can tell you that when I'm running an intensive, I'm going to have the family therapist call you on day one, or even before, like when we know he's coming, and say, let me tell you what to prepare for. Let me tell you how to take care of yourself while he's gone. So if that's not happening, I would get on the phone and say, look, folks, I'm paying for this too. The treatment isn't just for him. What should I be expecting? What should I be thinking about? Who is going to communicate with me? I'm a fully functioning partner in this marriage, and I want to know everything I need to know before he comes home. And I think that if they are responsible and they know what they're doing, they will immediately respond to you. The other option is to go to, how do I say this? Also, a good treatment program will have a very elaborate aftercare plan. And I recommend strongly that you as a wife or a husband of an addict get a copy of the aftercare plan. We like to hide them because when I come back from treatment, my plan often says I have to go to this many meetings a week and I have to see this therapist and I have to go back to my psychiatrist, whatever it says. And I just don't want to do all that stuff. And yeah, I promised all those people in treatment I was going to do that, and I really meant it. But when I get home, I'm not so sure I want to do all of that. And therefore, my therapist should get a copy of my aftercare plan. My spouse and family should have a copy so that everybody knows what is expected of me when I go home. 9 times out of 10, in my experience, having run treatment for years, people come back home and they don't do the things that are on there. They say, well, I'll go to one meeting, but not that one. I don't really want to see that therapist. I'll see this one. And before you know it, they're right back where they started, for the simple reason that we spent weeks working on and with them, trying to figure out what would be the best plan for you specifically to go home to your family. And that plan is written and discussed, and they have it in their hand when they leave. So you should see that. You should know what it is. If there isn't one, I would be very concerned about the program. But they should be able to guide the two of you. So one other thing about him lying. Your husband lies. He's going to lie. He's a narcissist. He's going to protect himself. Treatment, even a month or more, doesn't change who someone is. It teaches them how to negotiate the world differently. If you find your husband comes back and he is more aware, more in touch with his feelings, more willing to share with you, more open about what he's done and how you might feel about it, more empathic to your experience, I might begin to think, wow, treatment was really helpful. That's the first step toward us having a better marriage. The simple fact that he's not acting out and is going to be honest with me now, or at least I know what's been going on, that's the beginning. But those of you who are spouses, don't expect that we're going to be warmer, less narcissistic, more understanding, more compassionate, or more empathic just because we went to treatment. We still have the character challenges and the emotional challenges and the things that we brought into treatment, and we're going to leave with them. But what I hope we'll leave with is an understanding of how to not act out sexually, a willingness to be more honest, a program that we're involved in or some kind of thing we're plugged into that leaves us with the kind of support we need going forward after we leave. But don't expect us to have it together, because we're not. I do think that every partner should expect honesty, at least within 24 hours, about what we've been doing if it's something that affects the relationship, like how to slip. And I think you do have a right to know exactly what our recovery looks like and what our plan is, and at some point to expect some real disclosure with a professional present. But for us to be the perfect husband and wife, and I get it, you've been hurt, you've been let down for years and years and years, and we've had our own way. We got to do whatever we wanted, and you didn't even know about it. Now it's your turn. I get it. Now you get to call the shots. Now you get to, unfortunately, we still may not be who you would like us to be. However, what does need to stop, the lying, the blaming, the external, why are you bugging me about that? Because you cheated on me. Why are you checking when I got home? Because you used to cheat. You know, all of the defending about your questioning, that needs to stop. And he needs, and by the way, I wrote a book about this, just to say it, called Out of the Doghouse, a relationship saving guide for men caught cheating. And I wrote this because men don't seem to understand what it is they need to do over a period of time to heal the wound of cheating and infidelity with a female partner. We just don't get it. We're not good at it. We think flowers, candy, moonbeams, I'm sorry, let's go on a vacation. 3 weeks later, you should forgive us. And I know it can take a year or longer for you guys to really come to a place. So here's another thought for you as a partner. I would not pressure yourself, A, to be forgiving, B, to be all warm and fuzzy, or C, to believe a whole lot that he says. I don't think you have to do any of those things. You can just take him on face value. The person who did all these things to me, who's now learned a few things, but we have a long way to go. And that is a start. And as far as expectations of what you might expect from him, that's why I wrote Out of the Doghouse. Because if he isn't empathic toward you, if he isn't compassionate toward your pain, if he doesn't understand what it means to you to have been lied to for 40 years by the person that you thought would never lie to you and had your back, then he needs to read the book and do a lot of work toward at least conceptualizing what he's done to you, because most of us don't have a clue.
Okay, next question. My sex addict wife of 28 years and I are in recovery together after initial disclosure in June of last year. We are in the final stretch of a full therapeutic disclosure, pending her developing more self-care to prepare for a disclosure. I've been able to achieve a pretty good level of calmness and serenity and not direct anger at her instead of using fellows, 12-step programs, journaling, reading, and other things. Wife is feeling freer in her behavior around me. There is sometimes triggering because she will make reference to things in our lives, locations, or whatever. I fully believe she does not intend to do this, and I don't want to make conflict, but I also am feeling the ever-present need for her to be a little more empathic and think about what she says, even in this time leading up to disclosure. Any thoughts on how to present this to our therapist?
No. Sorry. You don't get a more empathic partner. You get a more understanding partner. Not in your first year. You don't get that. You get angry faces that look at you like, how could you hurt me like that? And what don't I know? And that's what you get for the first year. And any expectation that you might get loving support because you're working so hard, you're really working on this, that is my job to give you. That's Tammy's job.
Well, yeah, this is, I think, the husband of a sex addict wife, and he's looking for her to be empathic. And she's
Yes, that's not going to happen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it depends on, okay, let me back up. So let's go into the other genders. First of all, I didn't write a book for women who cheat on men because they seem to do it better than us and not get caught as often. So it seems to be that, or sorry, dog, not now, or maybe women just have a better ability to heal a wound of cheating than men do with their partners. I don't know. But I don't know that she's going to be any more empathic or any more responsive. I mean, that's an overtime thing. All you can do is state your truth and sit in it. You know, I am in this place and this is where I'm at. And, you know, you can be as charming and as sweet and as loving as you want, but you did that to me and you did it for a long time. And so I'm not going to open up to you because I don't trust you. And that's going to take time. So for the people who have a partner coming back from treatment, your job is to just keep your side of the street clean. You know, go find a place to deal with your anger and get support for it. Find some other supportive people to help you get through this difficult time, hopefully in some kind of 12-step or therapy group. And learn how to communicate your anger, learn how to communicate your hurt, learn how to set the boundaries that you now need to set so you can protect yourself without it being mean. But, you know, this has happened and you don't have any reason to trust it's not going to keep happening. And so you need to protect yourself for a while.
And I think when you're saying any thoughts on how to present this to our therapist, I think it's you tell your therapist.
Just tell your therapist.
Yeah, I
And let
don't
me say,
think she's as
I'm sorry,
empathic
Tammy,
as
go
I,
ahead.
you know, well, I was just gonna say that, I get triggered. I would like her to be more empathetic. I mean, it's one of those things where it's be honest with your therapist. That's a great place to be able to say those things.
I also want to say that it's not okay to be abused by your spouse. So, if you have someone who, I mean, it's not okay to abuse them. So, if you want them groveling, if you want them, in other words, even though someone's hurt me, I don't get to say you're a fucking son of a bitch and you don't deserve to live. Like, I don't get to do that. No matter how much they hurt me, no matter how angry, and I don't get to devalue another person's humanity or tell them they don't deserve to live, or, what, in other words, we still, even though what has happened to the partner has happened, we still have to be thoughtful and respectful and responsible for how we conduct ourselves. Doesn't mean you have to be sweet and loving and warm, but watch how you say, watch how you do. And by the way, the most important thing for partners, don't threaten abandonment unless you mean it. And I really mean this to every partner. If you say, honey, if you do that again, I'm leaving you, and then he or she does it again, and that might happen because addicts have slips. Are you going to leave? Because you better. Because we're listening. And if you told us addicts, well, if you do this again, I'm going to do that, and then you don't go do it, we heard, oh, I can get away with that. So make sure that when you make a threat, it's one you intend to keep. And if it's not a threat you intend to keep, don't say it. Now you can say to us, I feel like leaving that loser, but don't say it to him or her unless you really mean it.
Okay, next question. Can you talk about therapeutic separation? I'm worried that my SA husband will use this time to keep acting out, but I don't feel safe with him in our house after he's been faking his recovery for the past 11 months.
Well, that was not me groaning, by the way. That's my dog. Okay, I have to just show you guys, just so you know. I know you don't really care, but let me see. There he is. Yes. See, he wants supper, so he will get supper really soon. As soon as I'm done. Thank you, good boy. As soon as I'm done with you guys. So, in actually 12 minutes. So those are 12 minutes. What was the question?
The question is, talk about therapeutic separation. I'm worried that my SA husband will keep using this time to act out because he's been faking recovery for the past 11 months.
So I think this is important, and I say this often, and I'll say this for every spouse, and I don't think I convince you of this, but it's the truth. There is nothing you can do to make an addict act out. There's nothing you can do when your husband comes home for treatment or is working on it. There's nothing you can yell at him, you can scream at him, you can throw him out, you can have a therapeutic separation, you can do whatever is best for you in the relationship. If he decides that, oh, gee, now I'm not living with her, so I can go see a bunch of prostitutes and have affairs, that's what he's going to do. But guess what? If he lives with you, if he hasn't worked on his healing to the point where he really understands what he has to do, he's going to cheat on you while you're living together. So really what the question is do I want to invest in this person? And do I believe that they're going to work on themselves fully and be fully committed to healing the relationship as best they can? And that's all you can go on, by the way, is how it goes a week at a time. You will know if he's back in it because you will know from the way he sounds, the way he feels, the way he reacts to you. We're terrible liars. And let me say this to every addict who's here, everyone who sexually acts out or has an affair. I can't tell you how often the men I work with will say about the woman they live with, she's a witch. I mean, she's like, I don't know how she knows. It's like Monday I didn't cheat and we're having a great evening. Tuesday I stopped at the massage parlor. I was exactly the same. And she was like, where have you been? So how is it that our partners have such magical ability to intuit what we've done? Here's the deal. We're not that good at liars. We think we are, but we're not. That partner has a feeling because of the way I'm acting, the way I'm treating them. I'm shutting them out. I'm being distant. It sounds like I'm lying again. And you know what lying sounds like now. So, first of all, if we're going to continue the behavior, we're going to continue the behavior whether living with you or we're not. And second of all, if you don't feel safe with this man or woman in your house, to have a therapeutic separation. But those are usually, if it's a therapeutic separation, usually it involves how you're going to form working on the relationship while you're separated. So a therapeutic separation is like, when are we going to date? When are we going to see each other? How are we going to go to therapy together? How are we going to grow toward being together again? It isn't just about being separated. It's about not living together. But on every other level, you should be working toward dating, relationship, trust rebuilding, therapy, because your intention is to be together again. So I don't have an answer for you because I don't know who this man is, but I do know that you absolutely have a right to a therapeutic separation. And whether he takes that as permission to go continue acting out or as a realization that he has all of this to lose and he'll be alone, I don't know. Oops, sorry, dog, don't pull my lights down. Oh, now he's pulling the lights down. Okay, that's not good. Those are stopped. Okay. I can't predict who this man is, but I can tell you that you absolutely have a right to say what you need to say, do what you need to say. And if he acts out over that, that is completely on him, not you.
Okay, next question. I am a man married 24 years. I've been a provider, officer in Army combat 3 times. My wife, since 5 years ago, slowed down affection or attention towards me. We've not had sex in 2 years. She avoids me. Ironically says I'm emotionally unavailable. She homeschooled our kids without really needing to. I'm starting to resent all of this. I was happy to provide, happy she liked to keep home, but now I'm not even sure why we call ourselves married. I've been trying to propose therapy, anything she wants. She is unresponsive. I have never cheated on her. Help.
Wow. Okay. So I don't know all the details of your situation, but I do know that I do work with a lot of military couples and have in the past. And, sometimes you guys are apart for such long periods of time that and start early. And then the person, you kind of develop separately from each other. And so when you finally come back together or start really coming back together, the person that you fell in love with and maybe have only spent a year of your life with may not be that person that you've been married to for 7 years. They may not be that person. They may be different. And look, you deserve love. You deserve to feel love. You deserve to have love. You deserve to make love, all of that. If you've been committed and honest and are available to your partner, you're not being abusive, you are being kind, you are showing up in the relationship, you're being a good dad. This is part of the deal. Not that they are obligated to be sexual with you, but that you do get to say, I have these needs. And whether they're sexual, romantic, having fun, having better communication, I have these needs. And I am not happy in a marriage where these needs are not being met. And I don't want to be abusive in any way, but they're human needs. I have a need for attention. I have a need for validation. I have a need for hugs. I need to be, human needs. If your spouse says that's your problem, that's a really serious issue, because as a partner of somebody who I love, who I have a relationship with, who I might have kids with, I want to make sure that we're aligned and that we're moving in the same direction. And if there's something going on, let's bring it out and put it on the table and clean it up. That's intimacy. Hiding why you're angry, hiding and disappearing, withholding love, those are ways of communicating something that is not direct. Your wife is giving you a very clear message. Be at a distance. I don't know what that means. I'm not your therapist, but I would respect it. I would say that there's probably not a lot you on your own can do to make it better, but you might need to go to some therapy, even if your wife isn't willing, because you're living with someone who is emotionally unavailable and cut off from you. And you feel you can't communicate it. Even when you do, she won't respond. So you need help in figuring out how to work through that issue, how to get support, even if she never comes to therapy. How do you live with someone who is leaving you feeling so empty and unresponded to? And that's something you have to figure out, giving her every chance to join you in the process. But I do think it's important to let her know that, this marriage might be on the line. And maybe, sometimes when we say to our spouse, I want you to get help, I want you to join me, they're focused on other stuff. They got a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, and they're trying to struggle with finances, and they just don't hear us. Besides, we've been away. And now you want to run things after, yes, I want my part of the relationship now that I'm back. And you get to have that. And we don't know whether your partner is someone who really never felt comfortable living full time with somebody and responding to their needs full time. We just don't know because you were deployed. So who you are together now, that might take a lot of work and exploration, and it takes an interest of both parties to be involved with that, not just one.
Continuation and disclosure. I'm working with a sponsor and gave my entire sexual history from childhood at my first step presentation a few weeks ago. Do you advocate I reveal all this information and disclosure to my wife? We're married at 33. I'm now 59. My wife wants to continue our relationship.
Well, again, I think to do disclosure, you really need professional advice. And if you want Tammy to, we don't get a credit for a Reiki referral, so there's somebody you want to work with. But even just for that piece of it, you know, if you spend 4 weeks working with a professional, I think it's better than just doing this on your own. Because really, what you've written for your first step is not what your spouse should get. They're going to get a much more clarified, narrowed down, issues related to when they've been with you version, and not necessarily your whole life. And they will certainly not want, they might want, but I don't think it's useful to give them the level of detail that you might be doing in a first step. So you need a professional to sit down with you who understands disclosure and says, I will help you through this process. Let's just take 4 to 6 weeks. You don't have to be in therapy forever, but let's take this period of time so that I can guide you and your spouse through this. And I would not read your first step to her. That's not for her. That's for your 12-step program and your sponsor.
And what do you say if the wife chooses not to work on the relationship after hearing the therapeutic disclosure?
Well, that's 2 different questions.
No, this is a different question. Yeah.
Okay. I think the question here is, what if my spouse says, I want disclosure, and I'm going to stay with you, and we're going to work it out. And then they hear disclosure and they say they're done. Okay. I've never met a spouse like that. I've never had a spouse who didn't know already inside of them that they were moving away or weren't. I've seen spouses devastated. I've seen spouses struggle with what they heard, but most spouses, when they're in, they're in. And if they're not in and they're just waiting for information so they can be out, then that's where they're at. You know, I think part of this process really is about being as honest as you can possibly be. And my statement to my spouse would be, I don't really want to talk about all this if we're not going forward. Do you think we will be? And one of the things that we do in therapy is set the relationship in what we call a safe harbor. Meaning, if we're going to go through the disclosure, if I'm going to go through all of, if we're going to do all this work together, whatever it takes, then we are committed that we're not going to separate for at least 6 months to a year. That we understand we're in a process that might at times leave either one of us feeling like I can't stand you and I don't want to be with you. That's fine. They can sleep in another room. But we're not in a process that we agree is going to lead to I'm out of here unless we've really spent a lot of time talking about that. So I would suggest to you that if your spouse is a kind, loving person who, you know, has been deeply wounded by this, but still loves their family and you, and is a fairly honest human being, that's not going to happen to you. I haven't seen it happen many times. Most couples know on some level whether they're going to stay together or not. You just know. And if your spouse is manipulating you to get, you know, information for a divorce proceeding and she really isn't intending on staying with you, you can't know that until it happens. So I cannot guide you, you know, more in that way. I will just say that the best relationships that I see go forward are the ones with complete openness and honesty, where a partner understands that hearing disclosures can be very, very difficult. But they also understand that they're doing it in the service of better understanding what's happened between you and better understanding you and themselves, not in the service of getting ready to leave.
So my husband got so far into his porn addiction that before he crashed and hit bottom, his fantasy world blurred with reality. He was paying a member of a website that reviewed prostitutes. He turned on reading about their statistics, and they had detail sheets and their encounters with hobbyists. After I discovered this long-term addiction and was devastated, then I discovered that a letter he had written to a call girl in Vegas. He researched the brothels and picked out the fantasy girl. He didn't follow through with the in-call he requested while traveling, and he did not want to register with his personal information. Even though it was a big fantasy, it truly crushed me. I still think about it after 6 years. Should I be able to put this behind me by now?
Well, that's complicated, but I'll just answer what I heard. So here's how it goes. when you marry someone, you're in a committed relationship to them, and you really believe, you do the vows, and included in the vows, and this isn't true for everyone, is monogamy and honesty and all that. I would pretty much think that's the relationship I have. He or she's going to be honest with me. He or she's going to tell me the truth. That's my expectation. And if I find out down the road that they haven't been and that they have betrayed me, then I will never look at them in the same way again. And I think you need to understand that. No couple is going to go through this and have the original, what I would call kind of naive but hopeful view of the other partner, that you would never knowingly do something that would hurt me. You would always avoid hurting me if you could. I think that's a pretty standard, hopeful belief for my spouse. But here's the deal. Now you know that he or she not only can, but they have frequently, or a number of times, done things that they know would hurt you, and they did it anyway because they wanted to. So you will never look at them in the same way with this naive sense that this person would never hurt me, would always have my back. You know better. That doesn't mean you can't move forward with love and connection and with a different awareness of who this person can be under certain circumstances. So my answer to you is no. I don't think the breaking of trust needs to end a relationship, but I do believe that this kind of breaking of trust means a relationship will never be the same. Let me say a quick sign out, Tammy, because I think we're running out of time. I just want to remind you guys that I do this every Friday night on intherooms.com at 6 o'clock California time. We have on sex and relationship healing at least 6 or 8 or 10 groups for addicts to drop in, for spouses to drop in, both separated by male and female. We have a lot of this work available to you absolutely free. It is my goal to give it all to you, everything I've ever learned in treatment and everyone that I can bring on board for free. I know there'll be enough of you who want to come to one of our treatment programs or want to come to treatment with me that will pay for us to give everything else away for free. I know that's true. I believe in that. So if you're interested in treatment or therapy, you want to go to a treatment program, or you want to be in an intensive or something that I'm involved with, Tammy can help guide you with that. Just write her. But also know that we're going to be here, whether you pay us a penny or not, day in and day out, offering you the free help that I know will help those of you that never make it to a therapist or never make it to a treatment center need. And I hope that that's something you'll value and also share with others, because we're only as good as the people who show up for us to support. So, Tammy, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, and I hope all of you will join us again next Monday night, but also the other resources, including drop-in groups and the Prodependence webinar for partners this week, Friday, will be offered again. So lots of great resources for you. So see you next week. Thanks, Dr. Rob.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Tammy. Have a good evening. Bye, everybody.
Bye.